Lighting the chalice. We can't do anything without lighting the chalice. How did I miss that? If there were a time for a candle in the darkness, this would be it. Using the spark of hope, kindle the flame of love, ignite the light of peace, and feed the flame of justice. Very fitting for today in all areas. Okay, today we are celebrating Lammas, or Lughnassadh. It is the 6th of the 8th Sabbaths on the wheel of the year. Most traditions start with Samhain being the first. A lot of them also do Imbolc in February as the first. But this is the first of the 3 harvests. August 1st and 2nd is a traditional pagan holiday, variously called either Lammas or Lughnassadh. Lammas derives from the Anglo-Saxon half-loaf, and indeed this holiday is often celebrated as a festival of bread, beer, and other mysteries of the grain. Lughnassadh means the commemoration of Lugh, and appears in various spellings, but he's also a Celtic god. This is the first of the 3 harvest festivals. The others being next Mabon, which is the autumnal equinox, and Samhain, which is October 31st, also called the Witch's New Year. And as the summer vegetables peak and grain approaches ripeness. Plan ahead for Lammas by exploring the various themes associated with it, which can suggest ideas for your ritual or related activities. The green harvest. Summer fruits and vegetables have reached their peak. Tomatoes, sweet corn, melon, blackberries, peaches, etc. In some areas, early grain is ready, but in most places, it is in the precarious, almost ripe stage. Featured deities include the Green Man and Earth Mother, and other vegetative figures. It's Lammas, or Lughnassadh, the Sabbath where many pagans choose to celebrate the beginning of the harvest. The Sabbath is about the cycle of birth, life, death, and rebirth as the grain god dies, but will be reborn again in the spring. And as we've said from each of the festivals that we have celebrated and have talked about, our early ancestors, everything was about life or death. A fertile crop meant that you can survive a winter. And so many of these rituals that they have done was to appease the gods and goddesses, to give them a good crop, to give them a good, ripe harvest. So it's, it was life or death situations. Depending on your tradition, you may also observe this Sabbath as the day of the Celtic craftsman god, Lugh, which Diann will be talking about Celtic spirituality. Seasonal fruits include anything ripe at this time, most notably blackberries. And on our altar, we have a bowl of blackberries, blueberries, and strawberries, which after service will just put out for the creatures, for them to enjoy first harvest.
Hold up with first creatures.
Judy brought fruit salad.
I had no idea.
See? Okay. The earliest dessert apple and pear varieties also ripen in early August. And these are not for storage or canning, but are sweet, delicate fruits intended to be eaten immediately. Serve them by themselves or in fruit salads, or sliced with crackers and a sharp cheese, such as aged white cheddar. Yes, please. Alcoholic beverages figure into many Lammas myths. Chief among these are beer and ale, which come from grains. Fruit wines, such as blackberry or elderberry wine, celebrate the dark fruits of late summer. However, some versions of Lammas tie into the wine gods and the worship of grapes. Mead, made from summer honey, also appears in Lammas festivals. For safety's sake, serve alcohol in moderation after food, and make sure that designated drivers are available. Music. Lammas music is a harvest music, heavy on the beat, so drums are especially appropriate. And for our drummers out there, when you get home to celebrate, just do some drumming in celebration of Lammas' first harvest. Strings, especially harps and guitars for guitar players, are also popular as people sing along with them. And then they give us some seasonal songs. Yes, and you can celebrate this holiday as either a way to honor the god Lugh or as a celebration of the harvest, or both. Celebrating grain in ancient cultures. Grain has held a place of importance in civilization back nearly to the beginning of time. Grain became associated with the cycle of death and rebirth. The Sumerian god Tammuz was slain, and his lover Ishtar grieved so heartily that nature stopped producing. Ishtar mourned Tammuz and followed him into the underworld to bring him back, similar to the story of Demeter and Persephone, which was the mother and the daughter. Also, Isis and Osiris, the Egyptian god and goddess. Although they were brother and sister, they were also lovers, and when Osiris died, Isis followed him into the underworld and became pregnant with Horus, the hawk-headed god in Greek mythology, and that was their child. So many cultures, so many connections across the world, that opposite ends of the world that have the same story. This just came into my head. Speaking of Isis, there is a statue that was discovered through archaeologists. It is a statue of Isis holding Horus. She's seated and she's holding her son Horus. Well, another archaeological dig found a statue which they believe was Mary holding Jesus in the same position, the same seated position, the same. So many connections, so many. A feast of bread. In early Ireland, it was a bad idea to harvest your grain at any time before Lammas. Right? It meant that the previous year's harvest had run out early, and that was a serious failing in agricultural communities. However, on August 1st, the first sheaves of grain were cut by the farmer, and by nightfall, his wife had made the first loaves of bread of the season. In our modern day, it's often easy to forget the trials and tribulations our ancestors had to endure. For us, if we need a loaf of bread, we simply drive to our local grocery store and buy a few bags of prepared bread. If we run out, it's no big deal. We just go and get more. When our ancestors lived hundreds and thousands of years ago, the harvesting and processing of grain was crucial. If crops were left in the field too long, or the bread not baked in time, families could starve. Taking care of one's crop meant the difference between life and death, as we would say. By celebrating Lammas as a harvest holiday, we honor our ancestors and the hard work they must have had to endure in order to survive. This is a good time to give thanks for the abundance we have in our lives and be grateful for the food on our tables. Lammas is a time of transformation and rebirth and new beginnings, which in our round robin, and it wasn't necessary, mandatory, but I think that being that this was our first harvest, our second collection this month is to Lacey Food Bank. What better way to observe Lammas as a community and give back. Okay, now we do Lammas customs and traditions. In the early harvest and the threshing of grain has been celebrated for thousands of years. Here are just a few of the customs and legends surrounding the Lammas season. There are a lot of myths and folklore surrounding Lammas and Lughnassadh. Thor's wife Sif had beautiful golden hair until Loki, the prankster, cut it off. Thor was so upset he wanted to kill Loki, but some dwarves spun new hair for Sif, which grew magically as soon as it touched her head. The hair of Sif is associated with the harvest and the golden grain that grows every year. And these are just some harvest grain sheaves are put together, and corn husks that put everything together. In the Shetland Islands, farmers believe that grain harvesting should only take place during a waning moon. They also believe this about the fall potato crop and the cutting of peat. At Lughnassadh, calves are weaned and the first fruits are ripe, such as apples and grapes. In some Irish counties, it was believed farmers had to wait until Lughnassadh to start picking these fruits, or bad luck would befall all the community. In some countries, Lammas is a time for warrior games and mock battles. This may harken back to the days when a harvest festival was held and people would come and artisans offer up their finest work. It's become a custom to give people the gift of a pair of gloves at Lammas time. In part, it's because winter is just around the corner. And it's also related to an old English tradition in which landowners gave their tenants a pair of gloves after the harvest. The glove is also a symbol of authority and benevolence. John Barleycorn. In English folklore, John Barleycorn is a character who represents the crop of barley harvested each autumn. Equally as important, he symbolizes the wonderful drinks which can be made from barley, beer, and whiskey, and their effects. In the traditional folk song, John Barleycorn, the character of John Barleycorn endures all kinds of indignities most of which correspond with the cyclic nature of planting, growing, harvesting, and then death. Did you know that? Because I think we all know the song, John Barley, right? Parts of Appalachia are rich in superstitions surrounding corn. Some farmers believe that if you miss a row while you're planting corn, someone in your family will die before the harvest season. Likewise, if you see kernels of corn lying on the road, it means that company is on its way. But if you brush the kernels away or bury them, your visitor will be a stranger. If the husks on your corn extend far beyond the ear itself, it's a sign you're in for a long, hard winter. Burning the cobs, husks, or kernels will bring about drought in the coming season. Lammas is the season of the early harvest. It's a time of the year when the grain fields are abundant, and if you live in a rural area, it's not uncommon to see threshers working their way across acres of wheat, corn, barley, and more. In less developed places, people still harvest their grain by hand, much as our ancestors did. It's also a time when many of us are enjoying the fruit of our labors, collecting greens, squashes, tomatoes, beans, and all kinds of other goodies that we planted in the spring. A simple prayer is one you can use during your Lammas rituals, or not, or even while you're harvesting the bounty of your own gardens, honoring the many deities of the early harvest season. I'll just read this to you. I think almost. Here it is. The fields are full and orchards blooming, and the harvest has arrived. Hail to the gods who watch over the land. Hail Attis, who dies and is reborn. Hail Demeter, who bringing the dark of the year. Hail Bacchus, who fills the goblets with wine. We honor you all in this time of harvest and set our tables with your bounty. And then there's just some fun activities. Diann, I'm sure we'll have more. Popcorn, from the corn, just popcorn, and do lots of it for the kids, and make some grown-up ones, and put Parmesan rosemary combination over it. Make beeswax candles. Pick your own sunflowers or get them at Stop and Shop. Bake your bread from scratch. Try canning, preserving your harvest, or what we pick up at our farmers markets. I've always wanted to do that, but just haven't had, I don't know, time, energy. Preserving the harvest, if you do it right, is something you will really appreciate 3 months from now when fresh local produce is hard to come by. Did your grandmother pass along a recipe for jam? Both my grandmothers. Try it. Love those local pears? Can you use them in a Yule dish later this year? Very possible. Make blackberry pancakes for dinner and toast the sunset. And now, Diann Castiaux will come up and
share? Sold. Set things up for me. Yeah, very well, because I have the words to John Barleycorn.
Great minds think alike.
John Barleycorn. I don't know the song, I just know the words. There were 3 men came out of the west, their fortunes were to try. And these 3 men made a solemn vow that John Barleycorn must die. They plowed, they sowed, they harrowed him in, throwing clods upon his head. And these 3 men made a solemn vow. John Barleycorn is dead. Let him lie for a long, long time, till the rain from the heaven did fall. Then little John Barleycorn popped up his head, and soon amazed them all. They let him stand till midsummer day, when he looked both pale and wan, and little Sir John's grown a long, long beard, and so became a man. They hired some men with scythes so sharp to cut him off at the knee. They rolled him and tied him by the waist and served him most barbarously. They hired men with sharpest pitchforks and pricked him to the heart. And the loader he served him worse than that, for he bound him to the cart. They wheeled him round and round the field until they came to a barn. And there they made a solemn vow of poor John Barleycorn. They hired men with crabtree threshing sticks to cut him skin from bone, and the miller he served him worse than that, for he ground him between 2 stones. Now here's little Sir John in a nut-brown bowl, and brandy in a glass. And little Sir John is the nut-brown bowl, proves the strongest man at last. For the huntsman, he can't hunt the fox, nor loudly blow his horn, and the tinker, he can't mend kettles or pots, without a little John Barleycorn. I couldn't find music. And so the first harvest, the cycle of death and rebirth, with the anticipation of the arrival of autumn and the darkness of winter coming more into focus. You may find it a good time to reflect on what you have planted, nurtured, weeded, and fertilized since Inbal. Lughnassadh is the perfect time to slowly begin your harvest, to start to bring your intentions and hard work into fruition. You may wish to ask yourself, what is it that I'm harvesting? What do I wish to complete harvesting? What is my intention? What, if anything, is stunting my harvest? What, if anything, can I do to enrich my harvest? Be gentle with yourself. After all, Lughnassadh is only the first of the harvest. Take time to slowly enjoy the gathering of the feast. Lughnassadh is a time of great abundance, a wonderful time to get out in nature and express your gratitude for all things. Beautiful, bountiful, gather wildflowers, berries, and gifts from your garden to can, freeze, make teas, and saps to enjoy throughout the winter months. Back in the 70s, I had many friends who did that kind of thing. They canned, they froze. I saw what they were doing and said, that is not where I want to put my energy in the summertime. And we're fortunate. We can go to the store, we can go to the farmer's market, and we don't have to worry about whether Russia has cut off our grain supply. We assume that it's going to be there. So here's an invitation to grab your journal and go for a walk. Write, sketch, create songs and poetry, all about nature's seasonal gifts, about which you are grateful for. Walk Awake. And Walk Awake is actually a program that is done by my dear friend Denise, the Celtic shaman in Scotland. Walk Awake means when you're walking, number one, phone goes in the pocket, no earbuds, and you just pay attention to what's around you, to the trees, to the birds, anything. And it's a good way. I love to go to Double Trouble Park because it's never the same. It changes constantly. Later, when the wheel once again turns to the dark half of the year, you will have the energy of these beautiful memories at your fingertips, reminding you that soon the wheel will turn again to the time of blossoms, blooms, and great abundance. So you may not harvest wheat from the fields, but you have this rich energy still in place at your personal lives. You might not feel like you've been growing anything, but you have. Your energy's been vibrant. You just need to recognize that. All your efforts from the past several months, even from just living, bears fruit. You don't have to be a farmer. You don't have to create lofty goals. Just being is really enough. And this is a blessing from Lughnassadh by Carolyn Miller. Bless the earth underfoot, the breeze on my neck, the still dawn, the open sky, the feather fall, the beetle climb, the crow call, the swift fly, the cloud drift, the rising sun, the barley field, the river run. The grass seed, the bright plum, bless the toad leap and the thunderclap, the kingfisher and dragonfly, the sunlight dancing on the water, the wildflowers growing in the summer, the meadow sweet, the honeybee, the blackberry moon, the gliding swan, the eyes to see, the ears to hear, and all part of the river's song. Bless the seed on fertile ground, the scarlet trail, the morning mist, the hazy heat, the twilight glow, the meteor shower, the midnight kiss, the fields and stones, the llama spread, the wheel that turns, that all are fed. Bless us, grain mother, harvest queen, Demeter and Persephone. That's the date.
That's the date.
Okay, I know that now is,
On the music.
yes.